So I'm here with Rob and Brendan.
Hello.
Best friends, roommates.
Hello. We only have one mic.
Yeah, either we're gonna have to hold it or you're gonna do this.
Yeah. No.
Like, what do you want?
We can pass it back.
Okay, sounds good. So just raise your hand if you want to talk.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Yeah,
There we go. Yes, Brendan, you. Just kidding.
Cool. Yeah. So I guess the point of this conversation really is to gain more of an understanding of like altered states of consciousness, psychedelics. My interests really lie in the I guess my interests really lie in the understanding of consciousness and what consciousness is, as it relates to everything that there is to know about anything. It's all through consciousness. So having gain a better understanding of what psychedelics, entheogenic medicine, stuff like that does to the mind, it's immensely interesting to me. So as two people who have done psychedelics, I just want to really get to know more about what your experience was, how it affected you, how it affected your viewpoint on life and existence at all. So, Rob, if you would like to kind of share some of your experiences on psychedelics, where you started, kind of what your process was leading up to it, or taking it for the first time, or what you took, and just kind of go from there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is a great conversation. I think it's interesting. So I got into psychedelics, I would say, I don't know, 4 years ago has it been? Because when I got into it, I was with this guy right here and a very other near dear friend of ours. And that was the first time I ever did it, was with our other friend and then myself, and then Brendan was pretty much our overseer, our protector, our watcher, I guess. But he was sober. Yeah, he didn't do it, but he just drove us there. Our friend and I went there and went to the woods, and it was very like, and we did one tap of acid, and that was like my first introduction into it. I went right for the full shebang. I didn't go to like, usually like people like to progress into things like start with like smaller psychedelic drugs or other things like that, and then go to like harder things like acid. But I went right for the money, and so I did it with my buddy in the woods, and it was honestly a great experience. And one I look back on, and I just like, it was a great, I was very peaceful, and I got to share with, Brendan and other bud, and it was just amazing. And since then, I've done it a few other times, which haven't been, it's not always been great, but like everything.
What was your first experience on psychedelics? What did you actually experience?
Well, well, it was really interesting because like I didn't know what to expect. So going into it, I was just kind of just open minded, and I just remember the first thing. It's kind of hard to explain, of course, but I just remember like feeling everything around me was moving, and I was like, whoa. But I remember it really hit me when I was laying in this like embankment of a tree, or like it was like overlooking a mountain, and right in front of us was like this beautiful other mountain that was just snowed, and it was all these beautiful green trees. And I just remember how beautiful it was. I forgot exactly where we were.
I remember, we were just climbing up the side of a mountain. There was one tree that was like perfect for like three people to just like literally lay down in. And I just what I remember. I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember just laying on that tree and just being so comfortable and like so at peace, and just like it was quiet, and just I really took it like the whole nature vibe in, and that's like was like a really good experience for me, was to really be like sitting there, experiencing this new thing, and it's such a beautiful place with people that I absolutely love to death, and so I think to me it was a great experience, and I just felt peace and like love.
And then you've taken acid after that as well.
Yeah.
So what were your experiences past that initial, the first one?
I mean, I don't remember all the experiences, to be honest with you. Just the ones that stand out to me. One, because like then I got into my head where I was like, people drop acid for multiple reasons, right? People drop acid at concerts or at raves or like at parties, and like they just do it just to do it, right? And for the good time. But my friend, kind of taught me a way that he did it as well. And he did it for like a certain reason. Like, you know, he's not here with us right now. No, I mean, he's okay, but like he's not with us right now on the sofa. He's not dead. Sorry, I didn't mean like that. I mean, yes, no, he's still alive and well. But he told me that he goes in it with intention, and his experience is like he, you know, says that he found God on acid, and that completely changed his life. Like, I knew him before he found God, and like that trip he did, and then after is like pre and post, like, you know, BC and AD. Just kidding, but like that's like, but he's a completely changed man, and like that trip, whatever happened that he did by himself in the woods, completely walked out a different person, and for the better, you know, and like that I saw that firsthand, and I was like, wow, like this thing absolutely changed his life. I'm like, well, you know, I should see what it does for me, right? Like go in it with an open mind and experience these things. And so, but then I guess maybe I just wasn't in the right mentality, because not all the experiences are great. Maybe I went in too far, too deep, and it's like I didn't get out what I was looking for.
What were you looking, or I guess what was your experience as someone who you describe as went too deep? Like went too far into whatever psychedelics offers.
Yeah, so like for one example, like going too deep, like literally by doing more acid, like more of the volume of things per sitting. So like I was like, oh, maybe I got to take more of it to feel something, or like figure something out, which was not the answer. So don't ever do that. Just not a good game to play. But you know, so then I just never figured it out. To be honest with you, I tried multiple times. I even went to like other psychedelics too to try it out, and to me it's like, what am I even looking for? I guess I never really asked myself that question before I hopped into it. It's like, what I really want out of this, and it was like I saw my friend do this, and I know people's, you know, firsthand experiences. Maybe it's just not an answer I was looking for, you know.
Definitely. Brendan, what would you describe your experiences on psychedelics like? How did it start? And where did it end up?
Well, I don't know if I want to answer that question, but I feel like I want to jump on what Robert was saying about his experience before I get to that.
Totally. Also, keep the mic close to your mouth.
So what I wanted to touch on with Robert's experience was that prior to him telling me like, oh, yeah, I'm going to take acid with our friend, I was doing like my own research and like looking into different things, you know, psychedelics like LSD and psilocybin. So I was kind of like reading some of the stuff, like, you know, best way to do it, and like, you know, obviously you hear the whole tried and true set and setting, and like make sure someone's there that you trust. And that's really, I don't know if I ever really communicated that to you like as best I could, but that was like really what I wanted to do during that trip of yours. And I think it's just an important thing to point out, because like that's like to have someone that you trust and who is sober and that can kind of be there for you is a very important part of tripping, whether when you're with others or if you've never done it by yourself, you know. So I just want to hit that point.
No, it's a very important point, and one that's said by, I think, anybody who actually uses psychedelics in this way, in any way. It's just to ensure that you have a proper setting and mindset going into it, to where you feel comfortable and feel safe. It's immensely important. So yeah.
So anyways, I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Yeah. And so yeah, just to get back to what you're asking about how I got into, I guess, psychedelics. I mean, I consider weed a psychedelic. I think there are some people out there that would agree with that. Like, for me personally, it affects me very strongly. And when I was smoking weed, I would have these like profound moments of insight. Like I was learning something about myself, or like being able to like see things in a different perspective that helped me kind of learn a little bit about myself and what I was doing in this world, and kind of like brought some points of introspection on myself. And I think that was something that was very helpful in like opening my mind to different ways of thinking.
You're my brother, so I think we share, well, we do share similar genetics, and those genetics make myself as well immensely susceptible to cannabis, and I feel the same way, and I do understand how it does offer this sort of insight into your life and self-reflection and introspection that can give you this direction, and if you listen to it, you know, and I feel as if that is it's immensely helpful to me, but I understand that every drug affects everyone differently. So you know, you could take LSD, you could take psilocybin, MDMA, cannabis, whatever, and it'll affect two people completely differently. Like psychedelics are so beyond what the human mind can comprehend, that if you don't respect it, you don't take it with caution and do research and to make sure you're safe when doing it, I 100% this can end up as a bad situation for you, or a situation that is extremely difficult, so difficult to a point where it has profound effects on the way you live your life. So I you know, and then that's something that I take to heart, especially because of my immense interest in psychedelics, yet never having done like any classical psychedelics. And, you know, I feel as if this kind of this kind of thinking I do about it is enough for me at this point to just kind of understand it on a level of from what I get from smoking cannabis, and to kind of gain an understanding of it analytically, intellectually, and without actually taking it myself. I haven't felt the need yet to take any psychedelic personally, and that could change in the future. But until I feel as if that's a point in my life that I need to go to, I'm totally comfortable not doing it and studying psychedelics as an area of interest, rather than taking it to know it subjectively. And you know, this is something, you know, if you want to respond to that, I don't know if you were you about to.
No, I mean, I think that yeah, having, I guess, your experiences with cannabis is like is a very good like point to be at, and I know for me, like there's other ways to explore the inner world of your mind, not just through drugs, and I find myself gravitating a lot more to meditation and other areas of, you know, other states of consciousness that aren't induced by drugs, like and exploring those are I think just as valid, and although, you know, not the easy route. Like if you take a tab of acid, I think, you know, you're going to have some experience. So, but with meditation, you're not always guaranteed to have some sort of insight. You know, it's a lot more work, but there are other avenues to different states of consciousness.
Yes. I think that's an important point you bring up, because your consciousness is not something that should be taken lightly. It is everything you can experience. It is the only way you can know anything. So altering that and taking something that is going to shoot you far away from any sort of baseline grounding that you do have it can be very dangerous without the proper respect. So yeah, and something that I've gone to when I was living in Oregon, I went to a psychedelic conference. Oregon is very big in terms of the psychedelic the psychedelic movement rising in the U.S. Same with like Colorado, some states like that, and even California. And so I did a lot of understanding there, or I gained a lot of understanding from that conference, and talked to a lot of people, and it was a great experience to kind of understand what psychedelics have the potential for, especially with like the treatment of PTSD or mental health disorders, depression, and overall just living a better life. You know, one that allows for greater introspection, greater reflection, a greater way of contentment, and so that really interests me in that respect. And I know, Rob, it's something that I think about often, is like how this could affect veterans and having psychedelic experiences with undergoing psychedelic therapy for veterans. I don't know if that's something that you ever looked into at all.
No, not in the regards of like taking psychedelics, but I know veterans definitely, they would, if it works, they would need it, yeah. For on that side of things, I've been focusing on like mental health, like more so, not into the psychedelic world so much, but just getting the treatment for those things. But I know it's a powerful resource if it's used the right way. That's what I always say about it. If you use it the wrong way, you go in it with the wrong intentions, it could really mess you up.
Yeah, definitely. And reintegration is something that I think everyone we can get caught up in the idea of the set and setting, the start of the psychedelic experiences throughout the psychedelic experience. But I think so often the reintegration is so important, and that is something that is taken heavily within the world of like psychedelic therapy is how do you reintegrate that psychedelic experience into normal life? Like you're undergoing a great amount of change and a great amount of personal reflection, and it can go extremely high as to not having a self breaking through into some other world that is no longer here, whatever that means. And so, it's something that I'm sure, Brennan, you could speak to, like the reintegration part of it is immensely important. I don't know what your experience was with the reintegration of psychedelic or undergoing a psychedelic experience. You don't have to get into the actual experience of it, but if you could, speak to that.
Yeah, no, I mean, you mentioning that the whole point of reintegration being an important aspect, and that's very true. And I feel like that's one area that I lacked in doing in prior experiences, smoking cannabis. Like in those, like some of those experiences that I've had, which felt like very meaningful or life-changing insights that I thought I had. It's like I remember coming down off of these experiences and like, how do I hang on to that? Like wanting to hang on to that and like trying to capture like everything that I experienced, but it slips away. Like it's gone, and it's like, well, I can never have that state of mind again where it's like you have like this profound insight. I don't know how else to describe it. And that's one area I think I failed in like how in processing those experiences. And I think that being a cumulative mistake that I made of not reintegrating those experiences over years, that had I done that, there might have been other experiences where they've gone better, or at least I would have had more of a foundation of wherever that needs to be. I don't know if that makes any sense, of like having a foundation of like you've had these experiences and you've somehow like incorporated them and understood them at a certain level. That provides you with like a foundation to kind of grow in your own kind of journey of yourself. And so, yeah, I just say that as a point of reference, like for myself, like that was kind of a mistake that I've made and I've learned from on that, and kind of understand that, yeah, now that there's times where it's important to reflect and meditate in a sober state and talk to your friends and family or whoever you can trust about these experiences. And I feel like having those conversations with people are equally as important, if not more important, than actually taking any drug.
Yes, no, I agree completely. It's kind of this, I think what gets talked about is undergoing this experience, and yeah, like what you said, how do you hold on to that? How do you really reintegrate the experience that you did have, the profound impact that it did have on your consciousness at that point, into daily life, into this like baseline human mind. I could talk about my own experiences on, because I had a profound experience on cannabis when I was motorcycling through the U.S. and I was in I was
Not at the same time, right?
What's that? No.
On the motorcycle at the same time.
No, not while I was riding. I was at a hostel with my best friend John, and I was in Texas, and I had smoked, and I ended up walking. We took a walk to get food, and I didn't realize how much I did smoke, and I had smoked before, and I kind of knew I thought I knew what my limits were, and then I didn't, and I entered a state of consciousness. It brought me to a state of consciousness that was it was so profound, where it was one of those experiences that changed my life forever. It was one that I saw. I don't know. I wouldn't describe it as seeing God, but I felt the profundity of life in all of its nature, and I was weeping on the street. I couldn't imagine any. I don't know how to describe the state of bliss and beauty that I underwent during that trip, and for me, what I really took out of that was the profound beauty of existence. What we're doing here. Why is this? Why are we even here at all? And the fragility of it all, and how everything can be so transient, and it can move so quickly without us ever realizing it, and everything could be gone in a second, and you have no idea when that will be. And so, undergoing this experience has shaped my idea of not only what cannabis can offer as a entheogenic medicine for people who view it that way, but also as somebody who took so much from that experience and did my best to apply it in my life. And I don't know, like I think it's interesting to talk to you guys about this, because you guys knew me before I left on this road trip with my best friend John, and it's been 2 years since I've even been back in California to talk to you guys. And for me, and this is something I talked to my partner Dorsey about a lot, is this I feel like I'm a different person. I feel like I operate differently. I talk differently. I kind of have grown immensely in such a more short amount of time, because of some of the experiences that I did have before I went traveling 2 years ago. And so, this isn't something I say to toot my own horn or to sound any specific way. It's just something that I feel within myself, and I contribute a lot of this to the experience that I had on cannabis, and the continual experiences that I do have consuming cannabis as a respected and powerful drug. But I don't know if you guys see it that way at all, because what would your experience of like me before I left versus now?
Yeah, no, you're definitely. It's very true to say that you're a changed person. Well, even it's funny because like, yeah, you talk about like before you left on your trip, but I see it as before you went into the Marine Corps, and then after the Marine Corps, and then after your trip. It's like I can see different stages of growth, I guess, and I that's totally normal. Like you go through life and you progress as a person, you grow as a human being, and I think that's there's great things to be said about that. You know, you definitely more of an open-minded person. I can tell that you definitely have this drive to really understand people and have deeper conversations with people, which is nice to see. And yeah, I mean, you're not always like that, especially when you're younger.
Yeah, no, totally. I appreciate it. And again, I don't mean to say this for any specific reason. I just know that I feel it within myself, and you are two people that have been close to me for a long period of time. Brennan, you've known me my entire life. So, you know, and I say this also because, you know, we all undergo change. You know, I'm not the only person who experienced a ton in 2 years. You guys did as well. The reason I bring it up is because of, I think, the trip I did have on cannabis changed me profoundly, a lot, immensely, actually, completely. So, so that's kind of why I say it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Excuse me. How would you describe yourself after you got out of the Marine Corps? Or during the time in the Marine Corps.
How would I describe myself during my time in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, when you're in the Marines, when your contract was signed.
Piece of shit.
Yeah, how so?
Yeah, I didn't know myself. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what life was. I was going along with the monotony of it all, and the repetitive everyday cycle of living without ever giving a thought to what living is, to why we're here, to why I'm even seeing anything or breathing, experiencing anything at all. And so, you know, I got caught up in a lot of the propaganda that the Marine Corps offers, and I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was stuck in that loop for 5 years, and then eventually, after being so tied to obligation for such a long period of time, when I finally got out, it was almost this primal drive to divorce myself from everything that tied me to anything. So I sold everything I owned. I took off and just headed east. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew was I needed to leave. I ended a long-term relationship. I sold everything I could sell and just took what I could. And I didn't know where I was going to sleep the first night. Like, I had no idea. I just took off to San Diego to visit a friend or a couple friends. And then, you know, the me I look back on in the Marine Corps is somebody that it's me, as in the sense that I take responsibility for who I was, what I did, and what I underwent, which are all points of conversation that I not necessarily want to get into in this conversation, but after I left, I see myself in the Marine Corps as something that is so not what I stand for, and so not what I strive to be as I am right now. I've created a foundation for myself, if I could put it plainly, is that I created a foundation for myself that I never knew could even exist.
That was a really good answer. And I see that. I mean, I of course I knew you during your time in the Marine Corps. I see you now, different person in front of me. Would you say that if you didn't have that cannabis experience that altered your perspective in life, would you be as far as you are now?
I don't know. I think I would be far because I should rephrase this. I think I would be, I would be a quote unquote changed person. I would be a different person, matured person. I just don't know if I wouldn't be the exact same person. I think the interest I have now relating to life, existence, consciousness, psychedelics, whatever, my main penchants. I don't think I would have those interests, and as much as I do, because I underwent those experiences, and for me, it's become the most interesting thing to think about. It's become everything in my life is to understand what this is, what life is, where we head, where we are, what it means to live presently, to live in the moment, to exist, and that is the most important thing. That subsumes anything that we could ever do, or that I should say that I could ever do in my life, is to understand what life is. And that's that is what I feel my purpose is to understand what life is. And that's the goal of this podcast. That's like the goal of just my life, is to kind of understand this.
Yeah, it's interesting question to pose, like, what is life? Because I feel like everyone thinks about it, but do you think there is an answer? Do you think there's something to discover in that question?
Yeah, I think there's immense amount to discover in this. I don't know if there's an answer. That's a different question, and that's something different from what I'm necessarily searching for. And we've had similar conversations like this before. I don't see life as something that we can understand cognitively as humans. Like it's so far beyond what we can comprehend within our own consciousness. And there are always questions. There are always ways in which we can think that become paradoxes to an alternate way we can think. And so, yeah, I mean, is there an answer? Is there an ultimate answer? I don't know. But what's interesting to me, and what I find the most valuable, of the most value having conversations like this and living my life oriented in this direction, is finding meaning even if there is no meaning, finding beauty and love even if an ultimate answer doesn't exist, because I know certain things exist. I know love exists, and I know that these things have the most ability to profoundly impact not only my life, but the lives around us, and to bring us into a better state of well-being, whatever that may be. And that is like the ultimate, the drive for me to sort of ask these questions and to understand where we are and where we're headed.
Definitely. Well, so I mean, the word life is such an in-depth word, right? Because what is life? I would say it's either God or evolution, carbon, right? Like that's life. But really, the part you're trying to find the purpose and the meaning of life, right? Because that's how I saw it, at least. Yeah,
I mean, the purpose of life, I think that's the thing. It means something different for everybody, and I got so. I could see so much of the world that gets so caught up in certain things that I don't know, at least for myself personally, bring much value, whether it be like online fame, influence, money, whatever, something that I think a lot of us inherently know don't necessarily bring us happiness, contentment as we do progress. Not that they're not important, not that, personal finance isn't important, or it doesn't bring opportunities to you. It's just that, like, for me, what became most important is finding contentment and to kind of share that with other people that I meet along the way. Like how other people understand life is just as important as my understanding of life, because everything that I do is shaped by the experiences that I have with others. We're immensely social creatures. We cannot do this alone. There's a reason why I gravitate towards conversation so much, is because I know I don't have everything figured out. I have to admit my ignorance, and there's an immense amount of ignorance under this hood. So there's so much I don't know. There's so much that I will never know. and that applies to everybody. And for me, it's having these conversations, understanding maybe if I'm doing something wrong, I can switch lanes a bit, or maybe it even solidifies my beliefs, and it's just taking into account and entertaining ideas and really considering them and reflecting on ideas that I may not have even had any way of knowing without having a conversation, without experiencing life with other people.
If I'm understanding you, I can sum up what you're saying and correct me if I'm wrong, but like you're exploring like these questions in life that you have for yourself through conversation.
Definitely, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's the best medium we have right now to share information between each other.
The telepathy.
I mean, until
we get
Elon's Neuralink gets online. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one part of it. Yeah, I think that's a major part of it. And again, like, you have a different life, Rob. You have a different life, and you have different objectives, goals, purposes, and meaning behind what you do, and those are equally important. And that's it's not something that I want to neglect, is because I think so much of the time we can get so caught up in our own subjective minds, our own personal experiences, that we forget that everybody else is also having an equally profound and meaningful experience of their own. It's not something, the idea of solipsism I like to entertain sometimes, but I don't actually think, I think that's it can be quite a harmful way to view the world. But it's interesting to think about philosophically, but, and it's something that I know you take Rob, that you take immense interest to because of your view on the harming of animals in the consumption of food. So I mean, it's like understanding that, like, there is harm to be done. There is harm to be. There are better and worse states of well-being that one could enact on a conscious creature, and for me, it's like, it's interesting to think about not only philosophically but practically as well.
Right. Yeah. To me, logically, it makes no sense. I mean, I don't know if that's where we want to go, but
yeah, you can take. I would love to get your opinion on veganism, and I mean, we talked about this a little bit in our podcast.
Yeah,
but
so if you're listening, you haven't listened to it, check it out.
If you haven't listened to it,
it's the best one.
I forgot what episode it is, but I'll link it in the description.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, my perspective on veganism, because I've been vegan for 8 years now. I mean, just right around, I guess, as best as I can be. And my perspective on veganism is that, to me, it just makes sense logically and ethically, of course, morally, absolutely, but logically it makes sense. And once I kind of made that connection between, how could I pick one preference over another, and one's killing an animal, indirectly, but like one's the cause of death of an animal, or I can turn right and go to the produce and get the same benefits, if not more, cheaper too, without causing the death of an animal or causing any harm in this world, and that's, to me, is an easy choice to make. If I don't have to cause harm in this world, why would I? That's just how I see it.
Do you see it as more of a dilemma with, do you see it as the harming of conscious creatures?
Absolutely. Sentient creatures.
Sentient creatures. Do you differentiate between conscious and sentient?
Or
are they pretty one and the same?
It's a good question. Let me think about that for a second. Because I said they're relatively the same. Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example of why that wouldn't be, because depends. Yeah, consciousness depends on what level we're talking about, right? Because consciousness, I guess, from that, like, how it would have compared to like what we would have, do I consider that it's the same consciousness? Then I have to factor in self-awareness, right? And then that's if animals are self-aware, that's a whole different conversation, I guess, I'm going down. But yeah, sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Going down a rabbit hole there.
It's a rabbit hole that I find myself going down often, every day. And so I do find it interesting to talk about, because consciousness it is the only way we can know anything is through consciousness. What do you think consciousness is?
Awareness of the environment around you and self-awareness.
What do you think awareness is?
Being able to understand and comprehend things that are around you in different levels.
Do you think it applies to the feeling, the ability to feel pleasure and pain?
Consciousness?
Awareness, consciousness.
Oh. I mean, to physically feel pain? No. I think that's a physical thing.
So do you think consciousness is separated from
physical body?
Yeah.
Yes.
You do?
I do.
What leads you to believe that?
Well, to me, if I'm understanding your question correctly, I can pretty much touch any bone in my body. I can't touch my consciousness. Right? That's something that I can't tangibly touch. So to me,
and then
it's different.
Yeah, no, I totally understand the logical step to get there.
Yeah.
For me, I kind of see it, and I would love to hear your responses. Like, the only way you can feel your body is through your ability to be aware of it.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
So, I mean, for me personally, it's like consciousness is something that is
the ability to feel.
Well,
yeah,
I don't know if it's the ability to feel.
Well, ability to be able to think you feel.
It's just the consciousness is this underlying state of awareness that subsumes everything. Like, it's just everything is only known through consciousness, whether it's your physical body or your mental state. Like, it's all.
You're right.
You're all through. It's all through.
That's how you process.
It's all through the awareness of it.
Right. You take this. Because I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, Brendan, you're somebody. This is conversation that we've had before. Just one to one as brothers, but it is something I am interested in your take on, because I know you're interested in meditation like I am, and it's something we talked about on our episode as well, which is linked below in the description.
I think you asked me that last time too. Like,
yeah, so now you had time to think about it.
Now I've had even more time to think about it. But what is consciousness is such a big question, and something that I've explored through meditation, and I haven't arrived at any answer. Other than it's an experience. So there's something that it feels like to be me, and I operate in life under the assumption that there's something that it feels like to be Evan, and there's something that it feels like to be Robert, and it's something similar to how I experience life, but I can never truly know how someone else or any other being experiences the world, and that's I don't know what else I could say about it. It's such a slippery topic that I don't know how to speak to it intelligently, other than how I've just dictated it.
Yeah, no, and I completely understand, because this is something that not only eludes you, but myself and everyone that studies consciousness. So, it's totally justifiable that I don't have an answer, you don't have an answer, Rob doesn't have an answer. But it's, I just like to get people's perspective on it, because I think it's something that, for me, when I was enlightened to the idea of studying consciousness, understanding what consciousness is, it brought me a lot of insight as to how I operate within the world. And so it brought me a lot of change, I guess, cognitively to kind of orient my life in a direction that kind of tries to understand it more, because I think it's for myself personally, it's something that is immensely important. And
have you, sorry to cut you off, but have you ever meditated with your eyes open?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do.
Do you find that a helpful, I guess, cue to tunes you into a I guess, a different perspective of, because I think this is a fun, I don't know what you would call it, thought experiment, but at some point it kind of becomes real in the sense that what you physically see, like through your eyes, is being processed through consciousness. But in the other way around, it's like that is conscious. Like I see the chair, I see you, like I see you in terms of my own awareness. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely.
And if you kind of like go through the world, you are an extension of me in a sense, and the way I treat you is a really kind of how I treat a portion of my own consciousness. If that idea, I don't know if that idea resonates, because that's what meditating through with my eyes open kind of, I guess, a way of thinking, a way of operating in the world kind of illuminated for me.
Yeah, no, I do meditate with my eyes open and closed, and I do think that it does. I agree with the point that it's really one and the same. Like whether your eyes are closed, whether your eyes are open, it's all still your awareness of it. You close your eyes, you can see behind the blackness of your eyes, and the blackness of your eyes is still something. It's not nothing. It's this space of it's just a different space of awareness. So when you open your eyes and light and shadow floods into your eyes, it's the same thing. It's just more. And so I think often, and I think there's kind of two ways I can bring that point. One being, I think often about the what something is. So like to look at a couch, what is a couch? I mean, we see it, and this is something that science, physics, pick any science. It all is a way of describing what the physical world does. And not necessarily what it is. So we can understand couch on the level of atoms and protons or whatever it is, or on the level of particles, I should say. But we don't know what actually a particle is. So we don't understand what is the makeup of the fundamental reality that we see, that we operate within. So it's like a seemingly unanswerable question. What is it? What is a couch? It seems obvious. Like, of course, it's made up of matter. It's made up of particles. But what are those particles? And so, in a sense, I kind of view consciousness as something that is just, it's there, but it's also not there at all, because we don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know where to go with that.
Yeah, no, and then also, I guess the second way I kind of think about it is the unknowability of unknowability of consciousness, of the unknowability of where what we see is can be taken higher than anything we could actually know. So like it kind of goes back to your eyes are open, your eyes are closed, and you open them, and the light floods in. But that's just one sense, We can hear, we can talk, we can smell, we can taste, and those are all physical limitations to our body, human body. But we know that there are other senses to be experienced, like within bats with echolocation, that we don't experience. And it leads me to think, what else is part of consciousness or could be experienced by consciousness that we have no way of being privy to, just because of due to our lack of biology and physical hardware.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to that.
You don't have to say anything to it. I just think about it. Yeah, no. It's just, I feel like I feel like often I ask these questions to you or to anybody, and I think people like, I don't know if people get the sense that I'm really like looking to them for answers.
It kind of feels like
yeah.
it.
If it feels that way, I apologize. It's not really this. That's not how I want to make you feel, or the way in which I want to do that, or to make that conversation. It's really just expanding my own interpretation of things.
Right,
It's just kind of gaining another understanding.
Earlier.
Yeah. It's just gaining an understanding of like what you think about it and what you think about it. And, everyone thinks about it differently, and I can only know what I think about it. So I want to listen, and I want to hear, and I want to talk to other people that maybe don't think about it the way I do, and maybe don't think about it much at all, or far more than I do, which I'm sure many people, and I know many people do think about this much further and much more intellectually rigorous than I do. Right. I can only do it the way I do it because I can only experience my own experience.
Yeah. I find it interesting that you kind of go down this logical chain of steps of what you think. Like, it started from the question of what is consciousness, and you kind of extend it down a certain path. But I guess it was for me, it was hard to follow like where that path was taking you, or like what was the core point of kind of illustrating these chain of steps when you got to the couch, and like what is the couch and particles, like what is the core thing that you're trying to communicate there?
What am I trying to communicate by talking about like meditation and opening my eyes and seeing like the shadows and light flood in?
Yeah.
What was I trying to communicate there? I don't know. Just
okay.
I again, I think it kind of goes back to maybe I when I ask people these questions, they kind of they might take it as, or you might take it as me looking for an answer, or me just talking about something as if I have something to share. When I don't, I think these are just immensely interesting questions to talk about. Okay. And it's not something that
maybe it's just the way my mind works. It's like I'm trying to like, okay, yes, you go into these steps, and I'm looking for a conclusion or a resolution.
That's the whole point of the podcast.
Well,
no answer. No, it's totally okay.
Yeah, that's just, I'm sorry, that's the way mine works, and I'm just slow.
No, you're not slow. I'm the slow one. That's why I'm trying to ask people questions. I do get how you see it like that, because, I think typically when you're asking people a question, you kind of, it's this almost like unspoken agreement that like, hey, I'm trying to arrive at some point, and for this, and I think why I gravitate towards philosophy so heavily is because there really is no point. Like there's no I should rephrase that. There really is there's no answer. Like
sometimes there's no answer.
Sometimes there's basically no answer, except Descartes' I think therefore I am, and I think that's the only philosophical that's like the most basic philosophical wisdom that has come out of philosophy that people that people really can agree upon, or philosophers often agree on. Are you familiar with Descartes at all? So Descartes basically was a philosopher that wanted to kind of understand basically the epistemology or what we can know as beings in existence, what we can know for sure without anything being doubted. So if anything could be doubted, you could basically throw it out because it can be doubted, therefore we can't know it. And so what he arrived at was the understanding that we can only know that we are aware of something. So it's like, I think, therefore I am. It kind of, there's this agreement within ourself that something is here to be experienced, and whatever that is, whether it's a simulation, whether it's fake, or a vat, where our mind is hooked up to a vat in the sky, or we're in Elon's Neuralink or something like that. Like there's something happening, and that can't be doubted. We can't doubt that we exist. doubt that we think something is here. And I think that is one of the most profound points in philosophy. And really philosophy for me is an interest because there are so many questions which are seemingly unanswerable, but as we progress as a humanity, as a species, these things do become immensely important because it's questions that do have consequences. It's questions about morality, about consciousness, about where our place in the universe. Like it's not just unanswerable questions. It's questions that are answered through conversation and through introspection. And maybe there's maybe there's not a single answer and there's many answers, but there's still value in talking about.
Yeah, that's very well said. I mean, that's good. I don't have an answer. I mean, not that I have an answer, but
no, it's not about the answer.
I know that's why I backtracked. I know, but no, I mean, I think you're asking like the right question. I think they're really worded in a good way to make you think. I mean, you've gotten me so many times with your questions, so I've got a lot of. Well, like just questions I don't really.
I'm out to get you, Rob.
Yeah, right. Well, you got me those
you.
questions. It's things I never really think of. I guess I'm one of those people that fall in the category of like guys that just don't really think about it.
No, yeah, and that's okay. And I think
it's too much.
Why I do this podcast is because I like to talk about this with people that may not necessarily think about these sort of things the way I do, not only to gain an understanding of how other people think, but to kind of bring this to the forefront of other people's minds that might not otherwise have been there because without the lack of the conversation. So, or with the lack of the conversation. So it's just interesting to talk about. I'm not here to try to put anything on anybody and try to boost my own intelligence in any way. I just, I'm dumb and I'm just trying to learn with everybody else.
Yeah.
So
you're not dumb. I have a question for you. Let's talk about this. Do you think it's consciousness after you, or when you die? Like, what do you think happens after you die?
I don't know. I mean, I think whenever I think about death, I often go back to, Epicurus. So Epicurus was a philosopher, and he thought, he one of his famous sayings is like was to the effect of, wherever we are, death is not, and wherever death is, we are not. And so we can't. There's really this separation between us that it doesn't exist because it doesn't exist where we are because death isn't here, and
we're alive.
And if death in this other senses beyond something, like we're not there anymore. So it's not something, I have no idea. Nobody knows. I mean, there's people that have had
come back,
near-death experiences and that seem to have gleaned some wisdom within that. But it's something that without the lack of a near-death experience like that, right, I just don't have an answer for. And I like to believe so. I like to believe that there's something past our being now that is, in some sense, meaningful in some way. I think like holding on to this sense of self as like, and this gets into like what the self is, but me as like Evan Liel, or you as Robert Kronberg or Brendan Liel, like these. This sense of self as who we are in this life, in this experience of whatever the universe is. I think that kind of holds on to your own sense of self. And people that have done psychedelics or that have gone under trips of this nature that sort of uncouple themselves from their sense of self, kind of realize that, and it's something you can experience through meditation, that it doesn't exist really. And so when you die, I don't necessarily think that me, Evan Liel, goes somewhere. I maybe the universe is everything and I am the universe. It's like there's so many different ways that people talk about this, like we're all the universe and the universe is us. And so it doesn't really make any sense when you say it like that. I mean, but there's like a felt experience that some people have gain some sort of information on.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Brendan, I didn't hear your answer.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know.
what happens after you die, Brendan?
I don't know. I don't have the slightest clue.
What do you think, though? I'm sure you thought about it.
Of course.
I think I think everybody kind of thinks about it, you know.
Yeah.
What have you thought of?
I don't like thinking about it because I feel like that's it. When you die, you go back to however it was before you were born. And there's nothing to be experienced. There is nothing to experience, and that's the end of the road.
Do you
That's all
think?
you get.
Do you think that? So if you this is something kind of thinking about off the cuff, is like if we experienced exactly what we experienced before we were alive, that's still sort of in the past history of our own self.
Wait, say that again.
So, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here.
But
So if we go back to what we were before we died,
before we were born,
or sorry, before we were born,
before we died is right now.
yeah. But so if we go back to our experience before we were born, experience life, consciousness, whatever this is, and then pass away, there is still some sort of evolutionary process there. There's still some sort of like progression in some sense. So does that negate the experience that we're having right now?
No, I don't think there's any negation of what we're experiencing right now. What I was saying is like there's no sense of being Brendan Liel in the world anymore. The world will go on, I'm sure. I mean, at least I feel like.
Sure, it'll go on.
As far as I could know, the simulation doesn't end after I die, or whatever. Yeah, just
you,
just
Rob's
this local
everyone else.
node. Yeah. So that's why I think life is so, I guess, it's a precious thing. It's a fragile thing, and because you don't know how long you have, and yeah, I mean, when you go, you go. There's no, if there is more life to be had at the end, it's at least it's not guaranteed, and so you should live accordingly.
Accordingly to what?
Taking advantage of it and like, having positive experiences and making good impact in the world.
Cool.
All the above.
Yeah.
Explore life through questions and conversations.
I agree with you completely. I agree with you completely. Rob, what do you think happens after we die?
I'm right there with Brendan, honestly. I think you experience the same thing you experienced before you were born, which is void. I think there's nothing. I think the moment that you die, your body dies, it just turns black, and
There's nothing to experience.
there's nothing to experience. Right, what?
There's nothing to experience.
Yeah, there's nothing to experience.
Understand the concept of
Yeah, I just think your body will just go wherever you decide to get burned or get buried, whatever. That's that last identity you'll ever have, and then the world will go on. That's the reality of it. The world doesn't stop for anyone. Like no one on this planet has died that the world has stopped.
Yeah.
Right? Not even Queen Elizabeth. So it's like, I don't know. I think we're all just here playing the game, and then the day we expire is the day we expire, and then we just. I think that's what I think about it.
No, and I don't want to like take it to like a bleak area because I fluctuate back and forth with that kind of thought. Is like sometimes I feel like it's helpful to like have some sort of framework where you have like whatever it is, like if it's religion or something, that concept of an afterlife, if that's helpful, like sometimes I feel like that's a helpful perspective, or like maybe there is something to be experienced after. Maybe you advance in your level of consciousness. Maybe you gain a better understanding of the universe, and like something else emerges and evolves out of after death. Like that was an experience that you had to go through, and maybe there is something else on the other side too. So it's like I kind of go back and forth, at least in my own personal life, that maybe there is something after, but it's impossible to like put into a concept.
Yeah. I
There's many religions out there that.
Yeah, but that's what makes the exploration of religion interesting, is because there are so many different ways to interpret what we're doing here. And at the end of the day, this is sort of like, I'm not saying what I'm doing is religious, but I'm saying like the exploration of what we're doing here is at the foundation of religion. And questions, and because there are questions that are seemingly unknowable. So that's what interests me, and I like kind of where you put it. Like, maybe we do enter some higher state of consciousness. Like, it's something that is interesting to think about, but not necessarily something that is based in logic. So have you ever heard of the egg thought experiment?
The egg was a short story by Andy Weir.
Exactly. Yeah. So the egg is just for people who don't know. It's like basically, and I apologize if I can't recapitulate this correctly and 100% accuracy, but it's basically, you live every single life that there ever is to live within the universe, and then eventually you kind of evolve into this next state of consciousness, and then you understand that every single person that you've interacted with is you. It's all, you're me, Rob, and I'm you. Brennan's me. We're all together in this existence collectively, and it puts a different lens on how we interact with others, how we interact with the world. And I think it is very, I think it's quite a profound and interesting thought experiment to look into. Even if, it isn't true, it's just something interesting, because I think in some sense that it is sort of like this. It's the sense that we are all together in this, if I hurt you, if I do harm to you, if I don't love enough to another person or the way I should, it's harming me in some sense, because we're all here to better each other and not our own individual selves.
The good short story, if you haven't looked it up yet.
Yes, linked in the description.
Andy Weir, I believe that's the right author.
Yeah.
Same guy that wrote The Martian.
Yes. Yeah. Really interesting.
And that other book, Project Hail Mary. It's a great book.
Project Hail Mary. I haven't read it.
Yeah, it's another book of his.
Cool. Yeah. Last question. Fun question. Thank God. Thank Jesus. Who's Jesus? What are you guys most excited to be listening to right now? We got to give the audience good music recommendations.
Music? Sublime, 100%.
No, now. Well, I guess it's always Sublime.
Oh, it's always Sublime, yeah.
But if you could recommend something that you're into right now, a new music, artist, song, whatever, album.
Shaky Graves is my favorite artist right now.
Okay, cool.
Shaky Graves is like, I'll say folk. Yeah, folk.
Shaky Graves.
Yeah. One-man band. That's why I respect him.
Cool.
Brandon, I know your answer. Oh. Should I guess it? Oh, wait. Currently, you got a couple bands, so let's think. I would say your number one pick. Your number one is what? Brennan's like, no, I'll answer for Brendan. No, I'm just kidding. Is it All Them Witches or it's Strangely Arousing?
This is a band called Strangely Arousing. It's very good. It blends like reggae. I read their Spotify bio. It was like reggae, EDM, pop, rock, like all into one mishmash. It's really cool.
Cool.
And then I also put out Bootleg Rascal, the band.
Bootleg Rascal.
Yeah, really good reggae.
So Bootleg Rascal, Strangely Arousing.
Yep.
Cool. And Shaky Graves. Cool. Awesome. Right now?
Wait, Goth Babe.
Goth Babe, yeah, but that's not what... I mean, I'm always in a Goth Babe. That's like one of those like staples now. But right now... Man, it's a difficult one. I know I asked the questions and I'm like, yeah, sorry guys, I can't answer that. Yeah, the one that just stumped me. I love. Tiger's Jaw. What is? It's not Tiger's Jaw. The band. Heart to Gold. Heart to Gold is a emo punk band that the lead singer has such a good voice, and it's emo and it's punk and it's like hard and kind of is noisy or whatever, but the lead singer has such a good voice where it makes it really worth it, and they need to be bigger than they are. Not that my podcast is gonna shout out like wow, blew up. Heart to Gold, shout out to all of the artists linked in the description.
I want to hear Dorsey,
my partner, in the background running the show.
The social media manager,
Social media manager,
show producer,
executive
of this
Take
podcast.
the mic.
Take the mic, please, and tell us your favorite current.
And speak
music.
into the mic, please.
As loud as you can.
As loud as you can.
So mine should be 23 by Blonde Redhead.
Okay.
That's such a good song.
Yeah. Did you show me that in the car?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, you know this.
I know Blonde Redhead.
Yeah, and you know this song
I know
too.
the song.
Shoegaze type of like dream pop.
Yeah.
Like soft. I don't know how to describe, but yeah, that's a good song.
She's always like, I don't know what I'm talking about.
But it's exactly this.
Yeah, but it's exactly this. Yeah.
No, that's cool. Yeah, that's good.
Cool. Thanks, guys, for being on. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Again, for the
Thanks for having
second time. Reoccurring guest. Second, this is only you guys were the only reoccurring guest at this point.
Wow. So when we'll make it a third? When you're back in town.
Yeah, exactly.
And next time I'll have better answers for you.
No,
I'll just research, get some actual.
You guys had great answers. You guys had great answers.
Mathematical answers. Equations and shit.
Yeah. No. Awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye, Brendan.